It's good that you're with us this morning, Kristen. This is very casual, so just kind of go with my flow. We start promptly now at 8 o'clock. Here we are at the intersection, and we normally do a couple minutes of announcements, just so more people can get into the intersection, and then about five after, Kristen will start talking and sharing together. So. We might be a little, oh, 17 of us. See, when you open the gallery, for some reason, my gallery only does like six. And there's Doug. Hey, speaking of announcements, I hear that Doug Beach is retiring. Get out.
I'm changing hats.
Okay, let's hear about your new hat.
My new hat is yet to be is kind of it's on order, so to speak. No, when I step down, my last day will be February 16th, and I want to bring our new executive director, to the intersection, introduce her to you all. Her name is Lauren Bird, Byrd, and she'll be starting February 17th. And so when I step down, I intend to continue to be very engaged with mental health, help NAMI, um, and just change hats, so to speak. So not really going anywhere, just going to have a different role.
Yep, sounds like me. The hat, though, looks a little similar, I have to confess. But it's different. There are different parts of it. So, when would you like to have Lauren? The Thursday before, or what day of the week is this?
Probably the Thursday after, but I'll need to set that up with her. But I'll put it on my calendar.
Hmm.
So let's see. She starts on Tuesday, the 17th, so it'd be the 19th.
Okay.
So I'll try to make that happen.
Okay, good. And then maybe you both can come and talk about your new hat and things like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm excited to meet her. That's very exciting for Nami. There's an announcement. Uh, what are the dates, Doug, since you're talking? What are the dates for this year's Pathways to Hope? August.
August 28th and 29th. And I think one of the conference is going to be great, as I say every year, but it is. Even more exciting is last year we had the first youth conference on Saturday. It was a great success, and we say youth conference, but it was adults and youth, and that's part of the method to the madness is that we're all in this together. Excuse me. So I met yesterday with the youth committee, or the beginnings of the youth committee, and you just walk out excited because the youth are so engaged in this whole area of mental health, and their ideas are great, and it reminds us of how important it is to make sure that youth are part of the conversation.
That's exciting. So we're going to go that way and deeper, right?
Right.
Yeah, good. Other announcements that we have of things coming up. All right. Um, so this morning I'm trying to get my screen back. Sorry, folks. I'm getting there. Push too
Um,
many buttons too
this
fast. Here's Martha Ann.
this is a question trying things out. The Tuesday night interfaith potluck was really delightful, and thanks to Don, who was part of the leadership on that, and great to see Fatma there. This is a feeler question. Um, I'd be happy to set up another potluck in a couple of months. Is there interest in that?
Uh,
Yes.
yes, somebody
Yes.
answered yes.
Yeah, that's Joe Tiemann. Yes, we are interested in the San Antonio, Texas East Steak. We would like to set one up. Our steak center
Great.
is over in Windcrest.
Great. Good. why don't we try to keep this rolling and say every 2 or 3 months, another one of us is going to be the lead getting a big room?
Sounds good to me.
So
Thanks.
that's a great lead in to our next part of the intersection this morning. But there were supposed to be two uh, potlucks, and one of them was during the big freeze. But I do know that there was one on Tuesday night. So part of the action labs that we're working on now, the outcome, the plan, the hope, the dream, the wish, the prayer, is that actions come out of it. And very concrete actions. And I don't mean, like concrete that you pour, but specific things that are happening in the world. And so just the potlucks, interfaith potlucks, what they can produce in the world and do produce are relationships
Hmm.
across different faith traditions themselves, not just ecumenical among Christians, but there's also Jewish and Muslim, could be Buddhist, Hindu, Baha'i, indigenous spirituality. But it produces relationships and it takes
Hmm.
action to bring those into being. So Martha Ann has just modeled an action step. She went, she came, she asked, is there any interest? And now, there's a thought and plan for every 2 to 3 months. How can we, do that and work together? I'm sure she'll connect with Joe. And there we go. We've got an action plan to continue to build relationships. I hope you all had a chance. I'm going to try here sharing my screen. Okay, if you can help me out, Billy, I'm going to try to share my screen. I should have received the action report yesterday with the
Sure, ma'am.
okay, with the uh, oh, it's asking me to do a bunch of stuff, and we're not going to do that now. So, hang on. One of the things that we noticed in the Action Lab report by looking at the polling, one, we got really good knowledge shared, networking, people feeling stronger in terms of what's needed in San Antonio in terms of education. Life skills was the one at the top of the list, but we even need to broaden what do we mean by life skills? Riding the bus, how to register to vote, um, how to come up with a plan, how to meet with people who are different than you and same. Those are the basic kind of life skills, and we learn that. And so I encourage you to look at the Action Lab report. It's just one page. You can print that or forward it to other people, and how that might help to inform your steps moving forward. There are also some steps at the bottom of that one pager for you, for us, if there's some way that you want to broaden that kind of action taking, how you can do that and engage in different ways. So I invite you to really look at that simple one pager, what came out of the Action Lab, and those will continue to come monthly based on having an Action Lab on our odd number months and on the even number months. So we have one coming up on February 19th at the library. And that one's going to be a roundtable. It's like having lab partners, right? And coming together and sharing what actions they're taking and how those are going so that we can expand our action taking process and partner and strengthen our own capacity. So I invited Kristin this morning. She was such a perfect model at the Action Lab. I met her in the hallway that morning, and we ended up being one person short for the panel. And so I asked her if she would act and jump into the first panel, and she did. And the first panel was on, what kind of education does our community need? during this current context, both locally and nationally. And so she jumped right into an action plan that morning and contributed. So I contacted her and asked her, so like what action plans have you been doing since the 15th of January? And so she's going to share with us. There are a couple that she shared with me yesterday, so I'm going to really leave it up to her. But, the who, what, when, where, how, why she's thinking and doing these things. I think I even saw Randy Rice, for example, in a photograph from some rally or something that's happened recently, or he has a doppelganger somewhere. But I'm like, I think that's Randy Rice in that picture. So thanks for acting, however that was. So Kristin works for the San Antonio Public Library. She's the manager of the Little Red Wagon, which I also want to know what that daily action is in her life. But Kristin, can you tell us a little bit about what actions that you've taken since the 15th of January, and what were those steps, and what were some outcomes, and break it down for us.
Yes, thank you again for inviting me to be a part of the panel. That was such a fantastic experience. And also for inviting me today to speak a little bit about what I took out of the Action Lab and also what has, carried forward. So one of the first things was we're planning the roundtable at the library. And I'm just so grateful for the recognition that the library is a part of education, that we don't serve as in direct education, as in we're not providing direct instruction. However, we are so solely focused on meeting the needs of our community, both in education, technology, all kinds of ways. So we're working together on setting up the next roundtable, as Anne mentioned, at the Central Library on February 19th. So I think building those relationships and collaborating and continuing that discussion on education. One of the other things that I really thought a lot about after the meeting was AI, because it's something, we've all heard about and, read articles about, but I hadn't really come up with a stance on my own of whether it's something to fear or something to, embrace cautiously. So I did a lot more thinking on that since the Action Lab and came with my own stance of, you know, um, we've always been afraid of technology. Everything new always seems so alarming. But it's really important to think about the caution points and to safeguard against possible problems, but not to be fearful of it, to kind of embrace it, but figure out where we need to do work to safeguard kids and education from some of the pitfalls that could happen due to it. Um, and then
Kristin,
also,
did you do any research on that when you were doing your thinking, which is action?
yes.
What kind of research did you do?
So I was looking at, like, in the world of education, right? We hear that, oh, kids are just, getting all their homework from AI, and what are schools doing in order to safeguard against that? I was looking at what benefits AI has. I'm not sure if you saw an article that said that AI can more accurately and efficiently diagnose people than medical doctors. Um, However, that's not to say that AI is infallible. We still need people who are highly skilled and highly educated in the medical field to say, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, the results that AI might produce, because it's not completely infallible. It does make mistakes.
Mm.
And then also, I met lots of people and was able to share resources back at my team. Um, a little bit about my team. We're the early literacy outreach team. So we talk with parents all the time about what parents can do to help their children grow up to be readers. And we also connect families with the library. So we love, love, love to be able to share resources with our families because we work primarily with Head Start, early Head Start, um, families who are looking for and need those resources. Um, was there anything else I could answer or share?
How did you go about? I'm trying to break this down into, real human steps.
Yeah.
And because we learn that way, and you know that, so that sharing is learning, right? And sharing's a good thing. We learn that early on. Sometimes we learn it. Anyway, that's another conversation. Sorry, I said more. But so you shared it with your team. Was that like at a planned meeting, or how did you go about sharing it with your team?
At a planned meeting, but I also I really enjoyed those pamphlets that I received, the Know Your Neighbor. I got those two guides, and so I physically handed people the guide, so that they could look into it. Um, like I said, our team is really focused on serving low opportunity areas within the city. And I think you can't do that effectively if you don't know what's going on in your city. So I and my team really enjoy knowing as much as we can about the demographic data, about, the struggles within the city, because we can't really help if we don't know what's going on.
Mhm. So that even reminded me of when we were taking in information at the Action Lab, that was one of the components that people need to know about San Antonio. That was one of the life skills, one of the basics, was need to know about their city. And Sacred can help do that, like when we think about resourcing, but it's also a great way to learn about the city, like hearing and finding out about NAMI and mental health and classes that they offer, for example, or like where the food pantries are. You can get that, but that also tells you about organizations that are working in terms of food insecurity. So people are constantly, I'm running into people who are, I would say, close to shocked. They're surprised by what things are offered across our city. Like, I didn't know. I hear that a lot. I just didn't know. I didn't know. And so that's the kind of life skills that we're talking about. Those basic things about being a neighbor, being a San Antonio, moving and breathing and engaging in our world, and moving those things forward. I'm wondering if there are any folks who are participating this morning who have questions or thoughts that connect with Kristin and the work that she's doing. Any thoughts, ideas, questions for Kristin? I'm so grateful you said yes to this.
Hi, Kristen. This is Anna, and I just want to applaud you. Librarians are, oh my goodness, I don't know where we'd be in this world without them. Um, so I'm going to reach out to you privately.
Yes.
Can you put your email in the chat?
Yes. Put it in.
And what time is the event at the public library or at the central
I
library?
believe it's 3 to 4:30. Is that correct, Anne?
That's correct. On February 19th, 3 to 4:30, and we'll be sending that information out next week. So that in itself is partnering and developing relationships, and we're kind of trying to follow that route of in these monthly gatherings, where can we go next that kind of makes sense and we can learn more about our city in the process. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what Anna's thinking. Like, why does she want to partner with Kristen? I just get really excited about, those kind of connections and where they lead to.
You
And
can join us, Anne. I'll include you in the email.
okay, great.
Sounds
Because
great.
it is exciting to see that kind of building and connectivity. Um, any other thoughts, ideas? Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kristen, and maybe you already do this, but do you have a fun way for people to give little children library cards? When my mother was 7 years old, her aunt gave her a Quero, like little teeny town, 6,000 people, maybe 5,000 then. Her aunt gave her a library card. So when my mother was in her late 70s, still getting the award as the best teacher, a best teacher at Cuero Public High School, she would talk about the joy of getting a library card present at 7 years old.
Yeah. In fact, right now there's a campaign going on through the library, um, called the Giftable Library Cards. And this
Oh,
is
great.
where people can get a library card to give to someone they love or someone they care about in their own life. It's a whole package with a little gift box and a library card that all they have to do is just go to a library and get it activated. Um, so it's a really, really awesome program. So if you know anybody that you would love to gift a library card to, you can stop by any branch and pick one up. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I noticed that Bill Neely put into the chat all the information for the Action Lab in February, and also as the registration for that. So you can go there. But we'll be sending out plenty of information. And, you know, we've talked towards the end of last year about how great it would be if these virtual weeklies, if there were times that we had in person opportunities to meet. So now we're going to have monthly opportunity, and I invite people to really think about the action that you're taking and how that can also be a part of the action lab. So if you have ideas and movement, and some of you have, sent me information, um, and what could happen at those. So to start to think about the weekly at the intersection, but also the monthly gatherings as our way to connect as community on a regular basis, both virtually and in person. So just start thinking about that. Another thing, Kristen, I thought about in terms of team, um, and this is for all of us, but when you're wanting to share some sort of effort that's happening, to go into sacred where the recordings are at the intersection and even use just a portion of that recording with your team. If there's something that you heard, the other thing I tell people with those recordings, and now we have several years of them, but they're all titled, and you can quickly, kind of look through there about what they're about. So, especially with somebody who's new to the community, I always point them there, somebody who really wants to be engaged in the community. New clergy, when they come to town, they're like, what's happening here? I'll point them there, and they will watch a couple, maybe even a couple dozen, where they look at like just food insecurity, and they're able to kind of watch a sequence of 10-minute clips at a time and get to know organizations, people in the process. So that's a great resource in terms of sharing with others what we're doing in San Antonio. In fact, I was telling Billy at the beginning, um, I was trying to figure out a way this morning. with everything that's been happening in Minneapolis and across the country, to have that kind of conversation at the intersection. And one idea that I'd had was, encouraging people to register to vote, to participate in our elections. That's an action step in how to do that. But Billy, you were telling me about an organization that you said you thought was sponsored by the Area Foundation and maybe Kronkowski. Could you tell the rest of us about that?
Sure. Through Sacred, I came in contact with a group called All Hearts, like your beating heart, All Hearts on Deck. They are a group that's been put together to go provide advocacy, public awareness, not necessarily policy, but awareness of what the role nonprofits are in the community, and encourage the public to go financially support them and volunteer with them. The context being that with the federal government slowing down their funding in certain areas, to try to raise awareness of the critical role for nonprofits and to try to direct the public's attention there. It was really kind of an interesting idea. I wouldn't have thought of doing that. And I believe they're supported by Area Foundation, Kronkowski, and there was somebody else as well.
And I think Jane was on here earlier. Jane, do you know anything about All Hearts on Deck?
Yep, I just put the link in the chat to go to. And yes, it's the originally United Way, Area Foundation, and Kronkowski.
Thank you, Jane. I knew you'd know the details. Good to see you. Thanks.
It's good to see you. And please check out the website, because we really do need to change the way people think about nonprofits and the amazing work that we're doing. It really is an investment. It's not charity, it's an investment in our community. So please check that out.
In fact, maybe we should have them come to the intersection and go even deeper into what that's about. Do you have a contact or?
And
Yeah.
I sent you the link to Anna Maria, so you got that.
Thanks.
I can talk to Ryan at the Area Foundation too. He leads it on our side. So happy to make that connection. And who would I make it with? You, Anne?
Make it with me.
Okay.
And a Thursday morning into the future, whenever, that somebody's willing to come and give, that 10 to 15 minute briefing and have a conversation about it. Just as courageously as Kristin stepped right into it today. So she's such a great model for doing that. So
Yay. Okay,
Thank you
thanks.
so much.
that was, and these things, I don't know about y'all, but they give me a lot of hope. Martha Ann, are you still here?
Yes, yes.
Tell
My
us
camera's
about-
broken. I'm sorry.
Well, we need to get you a new camera. So in an email, you told me that, I assume virtually, you went to a gathering, Faith in Action, and that 8,000 people showed up virtually for it. These things
Yes.
give me a lot of hope to hear about All Hearts on Deck and Faith in Action. Can you tell us how that was organized? Who, what, when, where, how, why, that kind of thing?
Okay. It happened last Sunday night, and I am very active in the Catholic Justice and Peace Organization, Pax Christi. And I got emails through Pax Christi, but then a number of other online groups. And so I registered, and I had no idea that there was going to be Buddhist and Baptist and the Episcopal Bishop Booty and the Catholic Cardinal Tobin. And they were expressing in very, very touching ways that we people of faith, we people of goodwill, need to be concerned with the lack of respect for human dignity, the lack of respect for law. And so the recording of that gathering is available. And if people emailed me, I could search for it. But that in a very short period of time, I think like 2 days, people could get an invitation and show up And I put in the chat, were any of you at the detention center outside of Dilley yesterday? We took a van load of Incarnate Word sisters there. There were also other Catholic sisters from San Antonio. There were a large number of clergy of all denominations at the detention center yesterday. And I want to emphasize that it was a well organized demonstration with very, very powerful speakers. And at the end of it, people said, "We've done what we needed to do. You may go now." And most of us started leaving. Some people chose to stay. And then there was an announcement by state troopers, "Please leave." They chose not to leave, and they were sprayed by chemicals. But I think it's important to realize that, oh gosh, I would say 80% of the people who were in the demonstration, or 90% of the people who were in the demonstration, had a safe, inspiring experience. And I disliked that many of the headlines last night simply said state troopers pepper sprayed people and neglected to give the content, the speeches by Indigenous people, faith leaders. Thank you for letting me talk.
And thank you for that report. I see that Susan Corbell in the chat
She was
also,
there.
yep,
Great.
she was there, but she also put in another link if you want to do more than encourage people to vote. So it's a both and. Susan.
Yeah, Martha Ann, I think that was great the way you put it. I was waiting for my bus. I had dispersed, but the pepper spray came out on all of us. And I think we have to be very mindful in the future. The event was so well planned and everything was really very inspirational that if people don't get the message in the beginning that an event is going to be peaceful, somehow we have to stop that from turning into something that is not the message we really want. And on my bus back, I was with a group from Houston, and a lot of us agreed that we have to find a way in the future when we are presenting ourselves peacefully to encourage those who are not in that mood to stand back.
Mm-hmm. So right there too, and Susan, you know that it's an intentional action. So to spend time looking at how do we create that message and create it clearly. Communications, is key to everything that we're doing. And that's why we're gathering like this weekly and monthly, and we need to be communicating. So I would love to hear at some point when you start to see another level of communications that really helps with doing exactly what you say the need is. Because that message needs to be clear. And it is unfortunate that we don't hear the message of the day from yesterday.
Well, I think we need to give people options. I've been a part of very well organized demonstrations at the Nevada nuclear test site, and we're given the option. You may stay with the group and do legal things, or you may make a choice to stand back and cross the cattle guard and do civil disobedience going into the Nevada test site. So one time, I chose not to get arrested. The other 3 times, I chose to get arrested. But it was very clear in the communication. There are 2 options for people who come to this gathering.
Yeah, I was with the Dan Berrigan group in Ithaca, New York, and they made
Mhm.
those choices intentionally. It was very clear and it was very helpful, and I think we need to get to that point again.
Mhm.
Great.
So I'm also hearing two directions of communications, both within the people who are gathered and also out into the world, like through media. How do we clarify those messages? Randy, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear this report of what's going on. I know that Pastor Emby was there, and she posted some pictures, and I haven't spoken to her, so I don't know if she, got caught up in that mess at the end or not. I kind of doubt it, or I think she would have said something about it on her post. But also, a group of clergy that was involved in Minneapolis included Pastor Bart, that used to be in Madison Square, and Pastor Gusty. And I think several of that group were arrested as well. But it wasn't like a free for all like you would hear if you listen to a lot of the stations. It was limited, and yet that is what the news stories lead with. So this idea of letting people know what is going on and how you stay out of the fray or jump into it if you want to, is just real important.
Mhm.
I think.
How do we do that? A very important question
Yeah.
that we need to spend time, discerning and doing that, and just need to. Other thoughts, actions that are happening out there that you want to share?
I would like to share something, Cam.
Yeah, go
We,
Jane.
we are having a Generations Over dinner at Oblate on March, where when I say generations over dinner, 5 generations. It's free. It's over a meal. I'm trying to bring up the website so I can put it in the chat. We are looking for all ages. It's from 12 to 90 plus, whatever we want it to be. It's open now if you can share this um with your networks. I'm putting it in the group, but really talking about understanding the generations better, building connectivity. The last one we did last week was a smaller group, 3 tables of 8. One group is going out and just connecting, and that's what it's about. We can better understand each other, and age segregation is a real thing. We're not getting to talk to older adults. We're not benefiting from younger's perspectives. So, Generations Over Dinner is an initiative of the San Antonio Area Foundation, and I would love for you to bring your peeps, your grandkids, your kids, for a facilitated conversation about the generations. You will leave feeling connected.
And
So
where and when is this?
It's at Oblate, and it is on, let me see here, March March 2nd from 6 p.m. to 8:30. And again, this is a gathering of people around a table, stories, connections across generations, because we feel that's where it's at.
well, it's very fascinating too.
Excellent.
We kind of started the conversation this morning with the interfaith potluck. And we had some last year, and there was one that happened this last Tuesday night. But it start and end kind of with these food gatherings. And so across faith lines, but also across generations.
Mhm.
And we all know that food is a great gatherer, a great way to gather people together. So this is exciting, Jane, across the generations.
It's a beautiful thing. It's we have trained facilitators at each table, so everyone leaves feeling heard and seen. And all of the, we've been doing it now for a couple of years in smaller spaces. Um, but it's just look on the website because it's got some beautiful sayings there. Some of the younger people are like, I didn't know what I was coming for. And now they're like, completely something in here changed and deeper understanding for sure.
You know, it reminds me, I'm making kind of a leap here, but when I was doing more gang work in the early 90s, when you said this about something in here, those gang leaders and members after the Gang Peace Summit, they would say, I don't know what happened. And they were talking about during the summit, I don't know what happened in these last 2 days, but it was like I had a hole inside of me and now I don't. And so that's what we're about. And all of this that we're doing, right, is filling this hole with relationships, with hope. And it takes intentional steps and time and commitment. I think the commitment is to community, compassion, to each other, to our world, to our children. It's that. And to hear it, I can remember too when I worked at Haven for Hope. So I'm looking here now like at different sectors and bodies of people, right? When I worked at Haven for Hope, they were very serious about this as a transformation center, that it wasn't just a shelter, right? It was a transformation center. But how could you measure, transformation? Could we say, well, somebody didn't have a place, a shelter to live in, a place, and now they're living in a home or an apartment. But when we started to do some more research, we started to ask, did you experience while you were at Haven some type of change inside of yourself? That's how we define transformation, right? Did you feel something? Did something move in your life that you didn't have before? And the numbers were like 85% of those who had graduated said yes. And of that huge number, that's a huge number, we would start to break that down. Well, what was that change about? What was that happened, right? And the number one thing was forgiveness, which, talk about, shocked me, shouldn't, surprised me. But the highest number was around forgiveness, both of self, forgiving of self, but forgiveness that they found with family, with community. That is transformation. And that's what Jane's talking about with the young people who are going, oh, I didn't even know, or the gangs who felt this hole. I mean, you don't have to be in a gang to feel a hole in your life. And we all know that. So there's my sermon again. Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful, Anne. And I think that I'll just read Genesis 24. She's with Gen Z. I had such a lovely time sitting at a dinner table with guests of various ages, from Gen Z to baby boomers. Together, we learned that we had a lot more in common than any one of us expected to. As we ate, we shared stories and memories of our lives. We shared laughs and tears in a space that felt safe and warm. I invite each one of you to connect, check out the link, check out our initiative, because we know 35% of adults 45 plus report chronic loneliness. Intergenerational contact has dropped 40% in the last 20 years. This is the social fabric we're talking about. There's a rip in this seam, but we can get together and do something about that. So yeah, I can go on forever, but thank you.
No, and that's the whole point of the Sacred Action Lab roundtable. And so we're going to end with that. That's on February 19th, 3 to 4:30. we hope to have kind of an open mic process, but people sharing exactly the things that we've been sharing this morning and making those connections. So thank you all for your action steps and plans in the world. And it's pretty outside. It's not 17 degrees. I encourage you to get out there and enjoy some of it and have great weekends. And we will see you next week at the intersection. Thanks all. Great morning.